Say. Okay, also you all may send your email, so I shall share this folder to you, Dropbox folder, and I also make a Google Classroom. So you may send your email to my WhatsApp, and I will create Google Class and share all these recorded video to you. So this is a syllabus of ethical hacking we know, and we are in last. This is seventh lecture, and two more lectures will in unit 1. So first we should know vulnerability scanning. It's a common term for a cybersecurity professional, but it also happens in humans. For example, when sometime we take a chance that might lead to a rejection, that may lead to a conclusion that we may conclude we are somehow vulnerable. Also, when we're talking about mistakes which you have made to some other person, then that may be also vulnerability that may be exploited by that person. Sharing personal information that you normally keep private also make you vulnerable. Feeling difficult emotions such as shame, grief, or fear also lead to us vulnerable. Reconnecting with someone you have fallen out with and being honest about what you need in a relationship, including your boundaries and expectations. So all things makes us vulnerable, so we should live it. And we are a cybersecurity professional, so our core syllabus start from here. Vulnerability scanning in hacking. It is nothing but an inspection of potential points of exploit on a computer or network to identify security holes. A vulnerability scan detects and classifies system weaknesses in computers, networks, and communication equipment and predict the effectiveness of countermeasures. A scan may be performed by an organization, IT department, or a security service provider. An approved scanning vendor, for example, ASB, is a service provider that is certified and authorized by the payment card industry PCI to scan payment card network. So there is an organization called ASB. It is authorized by payment card industry and they do a scan of payment card network periodically. Payment card means either credit card, debit card, or somehow gift card also. Vulnerability scan are also used by attackers looking for points of entry. A vulnerability scanner runs from the endpoint of the person inspecting the attack server in questions. The software compares details about the target attack surface to a database of information about known security holes in service and ports, and also anomalies in packet construction and potential paths to exploitable programs or scripts. The scanner software attempts to exploit each vulnerability that is discovered. Running a vulnerability scan can pose its own risks as it is inherently intrusive on the target machine's running code. As a result, the scan can cause issues such as errors and reboot, reducing productivity. So when I run vulnerability scanner on my PC, so it may cause errors, it may cause reboots, and it will take resources of our CPU and memory and RAM. Then it will reducing productivity. That means I will unable to do more work parallel. Some work will affected. There will be a speed lagging. So there are two approaches. In exam, question may come, what is vulnerability scanning? Then you may define in this term. In this term. But in exam, question may also come, define the types of vulnerability scanning. Then we say there are two approaches to vulnerability scanning: authenticated and unauthenticated scans. In the unauthenticated methods, the tester performs the scan as an intruder would without trusted access to the network. Such a scan reveals vulnerability that can be accessed without logging into the network. In an authenticated scan, the tester logs in as a network user, revealing the vulnerability that are accessible to a trusted user or an intruder that has gained access as a trusted user. That means if I am doing authentic, so ethical hackers usually do authenticated scans and black hat hacker do unauthenticated scans. These are the basics. If you have to define both type in a one word, we can say ethical hacker do authenticated scans and unethical hacker do unauthenticated scan. And these are two types of vulnerability scan. There are another type that means based on access or based on the authentication, we divide scanning into two types, but based on the internal and external factors, there are two types of scan: external vulnerability scan and internal vulnerability scan. An external vulnerability scan can help organization to identify and fix security vulnerability that an adversary can use to gain access to its network. External vulnerability scan is performed from outside an organization network, targeting IT infrastructure that is exposed to the internet, including web application, ports, network, etc. An external scan can detect vulnerability in the perimeter defenses such as open ports in the network firewall, external vulnerability. A specialized web application firewall comes under umbrella of external scan or external vulnerability scan. But what is internal vulnerability scan? Is carried out from inside an enterprise network. This scan allows you to harden and protect applications and systems that are not covered by external scan. An internal vulnerability scan can detect issues such as vulnerability that can be exploited by an adversary who has penetrated the perimeters of defense. Threats posed by malware that has made it to inside the network and identify insider threats posed by disgruntled employees or contractors. So, in exam from this lecture, third questions may come: define or describe vulnerability scanners. One question: what is vulnerability scanning? Second question: how many types are vulnerability scanning? And third question: what is vulnerability scanning? So, if we can answer this question as a many organizations use multiple vulnerability scanners to ensure they are getting full coverage of every asset, creating a complete picture. Over the year, many different scanners have been developed, providing a lot of different options and features. I am going to show you list of vulnerability scanner favored by core security expert in alphabetical order. In next slide, I will show. So again, another definition of vulnerability scanner we may see. Vulnerability scanner is a or tool that provides users with information about weaknesses in the environment, insight into degrees of risk from each vulnerability, and it provides recommendations on how to mitigate the vulnerability. And these are five basic types of vulnerability scanners. First is called network-based scanners. Second is called host-based scanners. Third is called wireless scanners. Fourth is called application scanners. And fifth is called database scanners. Network-based scanner identify possible network security attacks and vulnerable systems on network. Host-based scanners find vulnerability in workstation, servers, or other network hosts and provide visibility into configuration setting and patch history. Wireless scanner identify route access points and validate that a company's network is securely configured. Application scanner detects non-software vulnerability and misconfiguration in network or web apps. Database scanners identify the weak point in a data. So one thing we have to make it clear. So when in exam read thoroughly question. If in a question, what is the type of vulnerability scanner? You have to give answer. There are five types of vulnerability scanners. But when there are questions is types of vulnerability scanning, not scanner, then you have to reply there are two types of vulnerability scanning, either unauthenticated or authenticated, or either external or internal. So scanning two types, scanner five types. So we see in exam questions may come as a short question. What is network-based scanners? So here we have seen the basic definition. It identifies possible network security attacks and vulnerable system on network. But it will be two parts question, three marks. Then you have to write in a 50 words. You may write network-based vulnerability scanner identify possible network security attacks and vulnerable system on wired or wireless network. Network-based scanner discover unknown or unauthorized devices and systems on a network. It helps to determine if there are unknown perimeter points on the network, such as unauthorized remote access servers or connection to insecure networks or business partners. Host-based scanners. Network means overall LAN, WAN, WAN. Host-based, that means come to the PC, limited to the PC and the server. So host-based scanner are used to locate and identify vulnerability in server, workstation, or other network hosts. Not a whole network, but a host of network, and that may be servers or workstation, maybe our laptop, and provide greater visibility into the configuration setting and patch history of a scan system. Host-based vulnerability assessment tools can also provide an insight into the potential damage that can be done by insiders and outsiders once some level of access is granted or taken in systems. Wireless scanners. Wireless vulnerability scanners are used to identify rough access points and also validate that a company network is securely connected. Application vulnerability scanner test websites or web applications in order to detect non-software vulnerabilities and erroneous configuration in network or web applications. So in exam question may be application scanners and they can sort application as a apps and they can say mobile apps scanners. Then answer will say apps is nothing but a short form of application software. APP stands for application and S stands for software. Application software abbreviated as apps. Database scanner. Database vulnerability scanner identify the weak point in a database so as to prevent malicious attacks And one news I share in a Google group, not yesterday but few days before, that was related to SQL injections. So that type of attacks we can avoid using database vulnerability scans. So now we'll see the most common vulnerability scanners in alphabetical. First is Equinetics, and you have to install it and you have to use it. Equinetics is a web vulnerability scanner that features advanced crawling technology to find vulnerability to search every type of web pages, even those that are password protected. Be Secure is a self-service vulnerability scanner from Beyond Security that can be deployed on-premise, in the cloud, or in hybrid environment. This solution offers both network and web application scanning and has a vulnerability database that is updated daily. If you connect to network, they will update themselves. So second is Be Secure. Even a vulnerability scanning may be a one course in your MTech, and it may take more than 6 months to read because there are so many tools. And for one tool, if you spend one class, it will take more than 20 class for just a one unit. That is called vulnerability scan. Third is called Bursuit. Bursuit is a web vulnerability scanner that is frequently updated and integrated with bug tracking systems like Jira for simple ticket generation. Fourth one is GFI Legguard is a network and web application vulnerability scanner that can automatically deploy patches across multiple operating systems, third-party application, and web browsers. The difference between 3 and 4 is WorkSuite is only web vulnerability scanner, but GFI is both network and web application vulnerability scanner. And we know how many types of vulnerability scanner exist. There are 5 types: network, web, database, host.
application.
Yes, application. But I think in our syllabus only Nessus and Nmap exist. These rest others are for you will explore because in lab I as I remember there is a one experiment maybe related to Nessus. Rest you have to explore by one. So I will discuss this lab experiment in our class. Frontline is a patented network vulnerability scanner that is a part of Frontline.cloud is a cloud native SaaS. So what is SaaS? Capital S, small double A, and big capital S. Security platform from digital defense. And what is digital defense? SaaS is software as a service. And digital defense is the company that maintains basically and also they are a partners in Metasploits in development of Metasploit also. And they develop Frontline. So this security platform also offer web application scanning as well as other vulnerability management and threat assessment technology. Nessus is one of the most popular. That's why it is a part of syllabus or syllabus. Most popular vulnerability scanner with over 2 million downloads across the globe. That is more than.
Sir, your voice is breaking.
Sorry for interruption. One professor come and we have to discuss something about BTech project. So now that discussion will after 1 hour. I am going to start classes. So NESAS, we should know. Part of our syllabus, questions will come in exam, theory, maybe practical also. NESAS is one of the most popular vulnerability scanners with over 2 million downloads. That means to 20 lakhs downloads across the globe. Additionally, NESAS provide comprehensive coverage scanning for over 59,000 CEEs. What is CVES? And what is CVSS? So difference is nothing here. CVS is the overall score assigned to a vulnerability. And CV is simply a list of publicly disclosed vulnerability that include the CVI ID, a description, dates, and comments. Then, what is the full form of CVSS? CVSS full form is Common Vulnerability Scoring Systems. So it gives a score in between 1 to 9. I think I have discussed in previous class, but we should know CVSS, CVE, these are the basic terms which we have. So they have a list of 59,000 common vulnerability. Then next Poach by Rapid7 company, it collects data in real time in order to constantly provide a live view of an organization's shifting network. Since the CVSS risk score scale is 1 to 10, this vulnerability can develop its own risk score scale of 1 to 1000. In order to provide more nonsense, it takes factors like vulnerability, age, and public exploit malware fits into account. Second one, Nmap or in the list eighth one is also our part of syllabus. So NESAS and Nmap is our part of syllabus. We do experiment in the Nmap is an open source free security scanner that is also used by organization for network discovery, inventory, managing service upgrade schedules, and monitoring host or service uptime. OpenVS is an open source vulnerability scanner maintained by Greenbone Network. This scanner also has a regularly updated community feed which includes over 50,000 vulnerability tests. QualisGuard is a hub for Qualis IT Security and Compliance Cloud Apps. It features a robust vulnerability scanners that help centralize vulnerability management. Qualys Web Application Scanner is a cloud-based application that both finds official and unofficial apps throughout an environment and also detects OWASP top 10 risks along with other web application vulnerabilities. SANT is a holistic scanner that identifies all of the critical assets in an environment, creating assets tag and tracking them to provide faster remediation for the highest priority assets. So one thing you may observe in map for every works of cybersecurity it exists. Port scanner it was there, host scanner it was there, for vulnerability scanner it was there. So whenever you did not recall any tool, you may name Nmap. Then the next tool is Tenable. It provides network and website vulnerability assessment using Nessus technology. They use predictive prioritization, which combines vulnerability data, threat intelligence, and data science to create a detailed risk score. Tripwire IP360 is a scalable vulnerability scanner that can scan everything in an organization environment, including previously undetected assets using both agentless and agent-based scan. So one question you may raise, sir, in our syllabus there are only two, but why you are discussing more than 20 tools? So as a professional, when you go for a job, when you do research, you should know these are also tools. Either Nmap and Nessus is a part of syllabus, but the other tools also we should know because hacker may use any tool in order to make an attack on your system, and as an ethical hacker or as a defender you have to defend your system. So you should know the most common tool Nmap, Nessus, but you should also get the idea of the basic other tools which are used across the globes, or also in an exam maybe questions come, list some vulnerability scanners. So in syllabus, Nmap, Nessus, you will scan, but you have to put in exam a question comes list five vulnerability scanner tools or list five most common vulnerability scanner tools. So if you go through all 21 names, then you will recall at least five and you will write it in exam. So in exam, questions may come. What is difference between vulnerability scanning and penetration testing? Because in exam, when we should set a question, we will not set the questions from one unit, five questions from one unit, five questions from unit two, and then no. We may ask some question that cover two units. For example, this type of questions. We take vulnerability scan from one unit, penetration testing from second unit, and we make a question. We ask, what is difference between vulnerability scanning and penetration testing? And this is the common question asked in job interview of cybersecurity also, because HR usually remember these types of questions and they ask, what is difference? Okay, you are a masters in cybersecurity. Okay, tell me what is the difference between vulnerability scanning and penetration testing? Then you should be ready. You should remember it, memorize it. Vulnerability scanning detects non-flaws, lack of security controls, and typical misconfiguration in network and operating system. But penetration testing is a technique for demonstrating the security of your network by simulating an attack to exploit flaws. Vulnerability scanning is used for defensive and offensive cybersecurity methods, while penetration testing is used for offensive cybersecurity methods. So this is the basic you should know. Vulnerability scan deals with defensive and offensive measures, but penetration testing is commonly used for offensive measures. Vulnerability scanning and pen testing are essential security measures and vulnerability management tool used by business to stay ahead of today's security issues. Vulnerability scanning and penetration testing may both be used in the cyber risk assessment process to assist identify which measures are appropriate for the company, department, or process. To mitigate cybersecurity risks, they must all work together. All means both. Vulnerability scanning and penetration testing both should work together in order to mitigate cybersecurity risk. Then a question may come in your job interview or in exam. How often should you get a vulnerability scan? So while each company needs are unique, it is a good idea to do vulnerability scanning or checks at least once a quarter. After depending on company needs, we may define a policy. We'll do vulnerability check once half yearly, yearly, after 3 months, or monthly. On the other hand, vulnerability scan may be necessary on a monthly or weekly basis, depending on compliance, major infrastructure upgrades, and internal network security capabilities. Again, next question is how long does it take to perform a vulnerability scan? A vulnerability scan can take anywhere from 20 to 60 minutes. The process. Average, not granted. It may over less than 20, may take more than 16, but average. A vulnerability scan can take anywhere from 20 to 60 minutes depending on the number of IP needing to be checked. Whereas a web scan might take anywhere from 2 to 4 hours, a network administrator on an internal security team can automate and manage scans. Scanning frequency is determined by the extent of the site to be scanned, network latency, and system services to be evaluated. Vulnerability scans are often performed monthly, quarterly, or yearly unless there are unique compliance, regulation, legal, or industry considerations. Then one question may also come: how much do vulnerability scan cost? That in first slide I discussed there is a company that do scanning for payment card industry. So for example, in payment card industry there are so many players: Visa, Master, Maestro, Rupee, so on. And the agency or a cybersecurity provider or cybersecurity company, if they do scans for a Visa, for a Masters, or for any payment card industry, so they will charge something. So in exam question may also come, or in or we should know also. If a question not come, then we should for our knowledge purpose we should know. The cost of a vulnerability scan is affected by various elements, including the infrastructure being examined, such as internal network or online application. Vulnerability assessment can cost anywhere from $2,000 to $2,500 depending on the amount of IP addresses, servers, or apps analyzed. Vulnerability scans are priced using a variety of methods. So there are so many framework requirements for vulnerability scanning. One is a ISO 27001. It requires quarterly external and internal vulnerability scan. Another is called HIPAA. It requires a thorough risk assessment and vulnerability process which can be identified with vulnerability scan. Third framework is PCI DSS. It requires quarterly external and internal scan conducted by an ACV, approved scanning vendors. FISMA. It requires documentation and implementation of a vulnerability program to protect the availability, confidentiality, and integrity of IT systems. NIST requires either quarterly or monthly vulnerability scan depending on the particular NIST framework. So, in exam, another questions from these lectures may come: what is vulnerability assessment methodology? So we say vulnerability assessment methodology has 6 steps, or there are 6 phases of vulnerability assessment methodology. First phase is determine critical and attractive assets. The first steps in vulnerability assessment is gaining an understanding of your entire ecosystem and determining which networks and systems are more critical to your business operation. Second step, conduct vulnerability statements. So in this step, we actively scan your entire network or systems through automated tools or manual pen testing to identify security flaws and weaknesses. Vulnerability analysis and risk assessment. So the next phase in the vulnerability assessment methodology is identifying the source as well as the root cause of the security weakness. Identifying in phase 2, this offers a coherent view of remediation. It involves assigning the severity scores or rank to each susceptibility based on factors like what data are at risk, which networks or system is affected, the severity of the possible attacks, age of compromise, potential damage if an attack happens. Fourth steps or fourth phase is remediation. The main objective of this phase is the closing of security gaps for each vulnerability identified, determine the effective path for mitigation. Certain remediation action might include update all the configuration or operational changes, develop and implement vulnerability patches, implement new security measures, procedures, or tools. Fifth one is re-evaluate system with improvement. Once the security weaknesses are remediated, analyze the system with the proposed changes or upgrades. This phase involves identifying the new estimates for the probability of neutralization, the probability of interruption, and the probability of system effectiveness. Repeat this entire process until the system satisfactorily eliminated all security vulnerabilities and increased with overall effectiveness. So it is just like feedback. We'll repeat the entire process and then last phase is report results. The final phase in the security vulnerability assessment methodology is reporting the assessment result under standing. The main goal of the reporting is to offer accurate information which clearly defines the system effectiveness and recommends potential solution if the current security measure seems effective. And as you have remembered your syllabus, report writing is your last unit and we take 9-hour lectures on how to write a good report, how we can improve your writing skills again there. So now I am stop sharing, only 4 present, and then I am going to mark attendance here. Till now I have written in copy that I will also add here. Impact CS atom. And then here. So there is no roll number assigned. Theory 1, maybe 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Actually, by slide it is 7, but in first lecture there was no slide, formal slide for you covering a syllabus. So here this is a lecture number 8. It will 1 plus slides and Johnson, Jacob, Raj. You may check it. No, I have not shared a screen. Okay, so present. So only for present. Absent is Cobra and Libra.
So are we shifting to main building, sir?
Maybe so that way you will get information from official channels if you are shifting. I got to
Okay, sir.
one. So Johnson will give me email. And one thing that is okay, Jacob, you may also send your email to me. I am, and all are sending no to your Jan University email. That means I have to make a Google class on, because if I make Google class using my Jan, then no one is able to join. So I have to make Google class using my Gmails or another accounts. Then you will be able to. And okay, no problem. I will do. So Jacob, you may also share your email. I am going to make a Google class and will see. Okay, so thank you so much for your precious time. And in few minutes or few hours, you will get a link of Google Class, and then I will upload all lecture slides in Google Class. You will able to down. You will get all slides there, and even I will try to send upload video also, or I will share the Dropbox folder. Thank you so much.
Thank you, doctor.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Have a nice day.
Okay, welcome Vanita, welcome Johnson, welcome Saya.